Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto's hidden Fox bloodline awakened alongside Ino, unleashing the rise of the Fox clan part 2. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. The following morning Sakura was making her way to Naruto's room. She had trouble sleeping last night as she was plagued by nightmares of her encounter with Shin. Despite what Ino had told her, Sakura still felt the pain from Shin's words. Upon arriving at his door, Sakura reached for the doorknob. When it started turning, she stepped back as the door fully opened to reveal Ino. Ino? Sakura asked, surprising Ino. Forehead, what are you doing here? Ino asked, taken aback by Sakura's visit. I came to check on Naruto and I should be asking you the same thing. Sakura told her, raising an eyebrow. Same as you, I told you I've got it covered. Ino quickly replied. Sakura knew that Ino did tell her that last night. Okay, so how is he? Why don't you ask him that yourself? Ino said, smiling as she moved aside to let Sakura see inside. Sakura's eyes widened upon seeing a now awake Naruto as he was putting on his jacket. Naruto! She shouted happily as she engulfed him in a tight hug. Good morning to you too, Sakura-chan, Naruto greeted her with a smile. Sakura backed up a bit and inspected him. All your injuries are healed? She asked. Yep. Did you forget that I heal fast? Naruto reminded her. Of course. But you looked like you were seriously injured. Sakura said, remembering how bad the injury to his chest was. Don't worry, Sakura-chan, I haven't become Hokage yet, so there's no way I'm going to die. Naruto proclaimed. Baka. Sakura whispered as she wiped away a stray tear from the corner of her eye. Naruto rubbed the back of his head sheepishly and cast a glance at Ino, who just winked at him. Hey, I'm starved, let's get something to eat. Naruto announces while rubbing his stomach. You're definitely healed, all right, Sakura said with a smile as all three of them went to meet with the others in the dining hall. After breakfast, the Konoha shinobi made their way back towards the village. Upon arriving, they immediately went to Tsunade's office and she was currently rereading the report Kakashi had sent her last night. She puts down the report and looks at the gathered shinobi. I'm glad to see all of you here. From the report Kakashi sent me, you all faced a very powerful enemy who is aligned with Sasuke. Tsunade tells them. Yes, milady. The individual we encountered was able to best all of us, including the two Akatsuki members we were pursuing. Kakashi told Tsunade. Yes, your report backs that up, however there's been news circling around the elemental nations. Tsunade said, gaining their attention. What news? Asuma asked. Orochimaru is dead, she said simply, causing everyone but Naruto, Sakura and Ino's eyes to widen in shock. It was this Shin guy that killed him too. Everyone looked at the open window behind Tsunade to see Jiraiya. Hey, he greeted everyone. Use the door like everyone else, Baka. An annoyed Tsunade told her former teammate. Jiraiya is right though. This Shin character is going to be a major threat and we need to bring him down. Everyone nodded in agreement and Tsunade dismissed them, but Kakashi stayed behind. Kakashi, you mentioned in your report that Naruto and Ino used a jutsu that no one should know. She said, waiting patiently for Kakashi's answer. They used the Flying Thunder God technique. Kakashi told them, causing both their eyes to widen. Are you positive? Tsunade asked. Yes, I'm certain. Kakashi reassured her. There was no way he would mistake that jutsu. How do you suppose they learned it? Jiraiya asked out loud. Has their behavior been strange lately? Tsunade asks Kakashi. For Naruto, he's like he's always been. Ino, I can't say for sure, but on the way to the fire temple she slapped Sakura. Kakashi told her. I see. Tsunade said as she leaned back in her chair. Kakashi, I want you to report to me if they show any more odd behavior or strange jutsus. Understood. Kakashi bowed before he exited Tsunade's office. So Ino and Sakura are at odds with each other. Could it have something to do with Ino's victory during that spar? Tsunade thought. What's on your mind, Tsunade? Jiraiya suddenly asks, bringing Tsunade out of her thoughts. Nothing. I'm just concerned with the events that Kakashi and Asuma's teams dealt with yesterday. Tsunade told him. Who would have thought that someone that strong would be out there? Jiraiya commented. Jiraiya, have you heard anything regarding the name Shin? Tsunade asked, turning her chair around to face him. I can't say that I have. Jiraiya tells her honestly. In that case, see what you can find out about him. She tells him, to which he nodded. I'm on it, Jiraiya says before disappearing in a puff of smoke. Tsunade just stared out the window at her village. She then opened a drawer and pulled out a sake bottle. This job is really stressful. I need a drink, she said as she opened the bottle, and as she was about to take a drink, the door suddenly opened and Shizune walked in holding some papers. Lady Tsunade, these need your. Shizune cuts herself off when she sees Tsunade holding the bottle of sake inches from her lips. Lady Tsunade, what do you think you're doing? She screamed, causing Tsunade to cringe. So where are we heading off to now, Sasuke? Suigetsu asked as they all walked across the ocean using their chakra to remain above the water. We're going to Orochimaru's southern hideout, Sasuke told him. Why do we need to go there? Suigetsu asked curiously. To get Karen, was all Sasuke said. Karen, do we really need her? Suigetsu asked, annoyed. He really couldn't stand Karen. Yes, Sasuke told him in a tone that meant he didn't want to be asked again. HMPH, can you believe this? Suigetsu asked, turning to Shin. Well, we need a full team for what comes next, right? Shin responded, grinning madly. He was itching for a fight. Suigetsu looked at him and sighed. Great. As if one lunatic was bad enough. He muttered to himself as an island came into view. They soon set foot on the island and entered the hideout. They came across several prison cells with prisoners looking at them. So the rumors were true after all. The trio stopped as a young woman with red hair that is short and spiky on the right side, while longer and straight on the left side, stands in front of them. She glares at them with her crimson eyes. You managed to kill Orochimaru. No, Karen said, tilting her head to the right. I already defeated him, but before I could finish him, he appeared and killed him instead. Sasuke said, motioning to a grinning Shin. So you killed an already weakened opponent? Karen asked, adjusting her brown narrow glasses. I just put him out of his misery. Is that so wrong? He asked sheepishly. Idiot, Karen said in disgust. Karen, I want you to join us, Sasuke told her, getting straight to the point. No way, I've been left in charge of all these prisoners, why should I go with you? Karen told him. Sasuke looked back to Shin and Suigetsu. Free all the prisoners, he ordered, to which they both nodded their heads and started slashing the prison bars with their swords, setting the prisoners free. What do you think you're doing? Karen shouted as Suigetsu and Shin keep on slashing the prison bars, freeing prisoner after prisoner. Relieving you of your duty, Sasuke said plainly. Karen glared at Sasuke and looked to see Shin and Suigetsu turn a corner. She then brings herself closer to Sasuke. Hey Sasuke-kun, let's get out of here, just the two of us, she said in a sultry voice. What about Shin and Suigetsu? Sasuke asked, confused at Karen's change of attitude. Forget them, they'll just get in our way, Karen urged him as she snuggled his left side. I beg to differ, Sasuke said as Shin and Suigetsu came back. We freed all the prisoners, Shin announced, as Karen quickly separated herself from Sasuke. Karen has agreed to join us, Sasuke informed them. What? I never said that, Karen denied. But didn't you just say? Fine, since you keep insisting, I'll join you, Karen said, causing Sasuke to be confused again by her actions. Alright then, let's move on to our next destination, Sasuke informed everyone as they made their way out of the hideout. Meanwhile, back in Konoha, Sakura and Ino were training with Tsunade. They were all engaged in some light sparring with Ino and Sakura going against Lady Tsunade. Sakura threw a chakra-enhanced punch at Tsunade, but she grabbed Sakura's wrist with her right hand and using the momentum to spin her around and threw her towards Ino. Ino manages to catch Sakura, and as soon as Sakura is on her feet she immediately charges at Tsunade and aiming a kick to her face, but she brought up her left hand to block it. Tsunade then grabbed Sakura's leg and tossed her aside just as Ino closed in and attempted to punch Tsunade on her midsection, but she managed to bring up her right leg to block her attack. They both then jumped back to gain some distance. However, it was short-lived as Sakura again rushed towards Tsunade and threw several punches at her. What's with Sakura? Tsunade thought as she dodged her apprentice's fists. Since their training session began, Sakura has shown much more enthusiasm and she's taking on an offensive role this time. Tsunade felt a presence behind her and quickly jumped up to narrowly avoid a punch from Ino. She then does a falling axe kick between Ino and Sakura and creating a huge crater. Both young kunoichis roll around the floor before stopping a few feet away from the crater. Well done, girls, your taijutsu seems to be improving. She complimented them. Thank you, Lady Tsunade. Thanked Ino. Let's take a short break, shall we? Tsunade suggested. If it's alright with you, milady, I'd like to continue training on my own for a little while. Sakura asked her master. It's alright by me, but Sakura, try not to push yourself too hard. Tsunade told her worriedly. You don't want to pick up that habit from Naruto, do you? Ino joked, making Sakura smile slightly. She and Tsunade walked towards a nearby tree and sat under the shade and watched Sakura practice her taijutsu. Ino, did something happen during your encounter with Shin? Tsunade asked while still looking at Sakura. You mean besides us getting our butts kicked? Ino asked as she looked at Tsunade to see her staring at her with a serious face. Well. Ino began to explain to Tsunade her version of what happened. I see, so that's why she's more into her training. Tsunade said as she watched Sakura form a familiar hand sign. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Sakura announced as a clone of herself appeared next to her in a puff of smoke and immediately they began to spar. I didn't know she could do the shadow clone technique. Tsunade asked, but soon after being created, the clone puffs out of existence and Sakura falls to her knees panting. She doesn't have enough chakra to use it effectively. Ino commented as she and Tsunade stood up and hurried towards Sakura. Sakura, are you alright? Tsunade asked as she bent down next to her apprentice. I'm fine, milady. I just pushed my limits a little past what I could handle. Sakura assured her teacher. Didn't Lady Tsunade warn you not to push yourself too hard? Ino reminded her. Sorry. Sakura apologized as she stood up with help from Ino and Tsunade. Sakura, why don't you go take a break? I'll spar with Ino until you recover. Tsunade ordered. Sakura nodded in agreement and went to the tree that Ino and Tsunade were resting on earlier. She sat under the shade and pulled out a bottle of water she carried in her ninja pouch. She watched Ino and Tsunade begin their spar and watched them for several minutes until her mind began to wander. She began to think of ways she could improve herself, like increasing her chakra reserves, learn a new jutsu, or maybe train herself using a weapon. She started listing in her head the things she could do to increase her chakra reserves when the ground began to shake, which brought her out of her thoughts. She found the source of the shaking as she saw Ino in the center of a crater. You appear to have a better grasp at this, Ino. Tsunade said, smirking. I had time to learn how much chakra I want to put in my attack. Ino replied, grinning. I see. Tsunade said as she gathered chakra in her right fist. Let's put that to the test, shall we? With that said, Tsunade rushed at Ino and Ino could feel an overwhelming power coming from the Hokage as she closed in on her. Ino could feel her body shaking and unable to move. She closed her eyes as she prepared for the hit. But then she felt something warm against her bosom, and when she opened her eyes again, she found herself back at her den. She felt something nudge against her bosom and she looked down to see her kits looking at her with worried eyes. It was then that Ino realized that her kits are feeling what she's feeling. They're feeling her fear. Ino had forgotten that because of the link she has with her kits they can feel what she feels and vice versa. Ino hated herself for making her kits feel fear, more importantly her fear. She nudges and licks them to reassure them that she's fine now. Ino closes her eyes and when she opens them again, she's back in the training field with Tsunade closing in on her. Ino takes a deep breath and her shaking stops. Her eyes briefly become slits as she charges at Tsunade while gathering chakra to her right fist. Tsunade saw that Ino was paralyzed by fear due to her overwhelming presence, and when she saw her close her eyes, she was about to stop, but then Ino opened her eyes and the fear that she saw in them was gone, now replaced with newfound strength. She saw Ino take a breath and then charge at her. Tsunade could feel great strength coming from Ino as she closed in. This strength, Tsunade began to think as her fist collided with Ino's, causing a powerful shockwave around them. "Whoa," muttered Sakura as she brought her arms up to shield herself against the shockwave. Ino and Tsunade stood still with their fists still collided until Tsunade pulled hers back. "Not bad, Ino, not bad at all," Tsunade said, impressed. "You were testing me, weren't you, milady?" Ino asked. "Yes," Tsunade confirmed. "Why?" Ino asked. "No reason," Tsunade said as she walked to Sakura. Ino stared at her, retreating back a little confused. That was strange, she thought. "So Sakura, are you ready to join us?" Tsunade asks. "Why, yes," Sakura responded, a little surprised at what had occurred. "All right, you two, let's work on your chakra control, and to wrap it up you two will face off against each other," Tsunade explained, to which they both nodded. So where are we headed to now?" Karen asked in a bored tone. "We're going to the northern hideout," Sasuke told her. "Where Orochimaru did his experiments on the curse mark?" Suigetsu asks. "So we're going to encounter his experiments. Cool," Shin said, smiling. "What the hell are you smiling about?" Karen asks him, annoyed. This guy was just plain weird to her. "I'm just excited," Shin responded, grinning like a madman. "Where the hell did Sasuke find you?" Karen asked no one as she adjusted her glasses. They group kept walking until they spotted a grand building between two tall rock pillars. As they approached the building, an odd-looking humanoid creature jumped in front of them. "Who are you? Are you more of Orochimaru's goons? Then you're going to die," it shouted as it lunged at them. HMPH. Shin smirked as he was suddenly behind the creature with his white sword pointing to the side. The creature suddenly started changing until it became a man. What did you do?" the man asked shakily. "I gave you back your humanity," Shin simply said as he started walking ahead, followed by the others and leaving the man in disbelief. They encountered many more creatures like the man they encountered, but Shin made quick work of them. "Karen, I need you to locate Jugo's chakra," Sasuke ordered. "So that's who we came here for, I should have known." Karen grumbled but did as she was asked. She closed her eyes and began to concentrate. "I found him," Karen said as she led her team. They walked down a hallway that split in two directions. "He's to the left," Karen pointed out. Shin and Suigetsu went ahead, and just before Sasuke could follow, Karen stopped him. "Jugo's this way," she told him, pointing to the opposite direction from where Shin and Suigetsu went. "But then why did you? Come on, hurry." Karen cut him off as she dragged him to where Jugo is. Suigetsu and Shin continued walking down the hallway when they reached a dead end. "The hell? Hey Ka!" Suigetsu cut himself off when as soon as he turned around he didn't see Karen nor Sasuke. "Why that little?" Meanwhile, Karen and Sasuke were nearing Jugo's holding cell. "He's in here," Karen stated as she went to reach for the door handle. "Wait," Sasuke said as he grabbed Karen's hand before she could grab the handle. "Let me." Sasuke grabbed the handle, and as he turned and opened the door, Something rushed out. Gotcha. The individual inside yelled as he attacked Sasuke with his monstrous-looking left arms and slammed him against the wall. Sasuke-kun. Karen cried out worriedly as she tried to see through the smoke. Ha, 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 that's what you get for opening the door. The young man said mockingly in a tone that bordered on the insane. However, as the smoke began to clear, it showed that the young man's attack was blocked by a massive hand coming out of Sasuke's back. So another copycat, the young man yelled as the giant hand pushed him back. Jugo. Sasuke addressed the young man in front of him calmly. I didn't come here to fight, I just want to talk. Talk? What's there to talk about? Jugo shouted as he launched himself at Sasuke. Sasuke jumped out the way as Jugo's attack collided with what remains of the wall behind him. Jugo, I came to take you away from here. Sasuke told him as the monster arm receded into his back. Are you insane or something? I can't leave this place now that he is no longer alive. Jugo told him as he once again launched himself at Sasuke, but he simply jumped out of the way. That's it, Sasuke-kun, wipe the floor with him. Karen cheered gleefully as Sasuke continued to dodge Jugo's attacks and leading him further down the hallway. Whoa, looks like we're missing the party. A voice called out, as it emerged from the smoke to reveal that it was Shin and Suigetsu. Karen, you're going to pay for sending us the wrong way. Suigetsu told her in an annoyed tone. You two went the wrong way, I didn't have anything to do with that. Karen told him. We only went where you told us to go. Suigetsu argued. Hey, where's Sasuke? Shin asked, stopping any further argument from the two. He's fighting Jugo and they went down this hallway. Karen told them. So he's having fun without us. That's not fair. Shin complained but then started heading in the direction Karen pointed. Where do you think you're going? Karen asked. I'm going to where Sasuke is. Hopefully he didn't finish the guy off before I can fight him myself. Shin responded as he continued on his way to the battle. What's that guy's deal anyway? Karen asked out loud, a tick appearing on her head. He's just an oddball, he fits in just fine. Suigetsu grinned. Wait, are you lumping me in the same category as you three? Karen shrieked as she adjusted her glasses. Why not? You're the biggest oddball here. Suigetsu stated as he began to walk down the hall. Hey, get back here. Karen yelled as she went after Suigetsu. Down the hallway, Sasuke continued to dodge Jugo's attacks. I can never leave this place, not with Kimamaru no longer here. Jugo shouted as he continued his attack on Sasuke. But suddenly one of his punches was blocked by a black blade. So you're Jugo, huh? Nice to meet you. Shin greeted him. Who the hell are you? Jugo demanded. He could feel something off when his fist collided with Shin's black sword. Your next opponent. Shin responded as he pushed Jugo back. Shin, don't make the situation worse. Sasuke ordered. Wouldn't dream of it, Shin said as he charged at Jugo. So you want to die too? Jugo asked as a bladed edge formed on his left arm and blocked Shin's black sword. As if you could actually kill me. Shin smirked as his black blade started to cut through the blade from Jugo's arm. The hell? Jugo said, shocked before pulling away from Shin. No backing out now, Shin said as he threw a left punch at Jugo, hitting him square in the face and sending him through the wall. Shin, stop, Sasuke demanded, but Shin ignored him and jumped after Jugo. Die, Jugo said as his right arm partially transformed to have cylinders which he channels chakra through and it shoots out like a geyser to boost his punch. Hey, Shin smirked as he brought his black sword up in front of him to block Jugo's attack. Huh. Jugo was surprised that Shin blocked his attack and he felt that same strange feeling as before. What's the matter? Don't tell me you were all talk after all. Shin mocked as did an uppercut on Jugo's arm. He then kicked Jugo's stomach, sending him through another wall. Shin then jumped after him and saw Jugo on his back completely open. He smirked as he closed in for the kill, but just then Sasuke appeared in front of him. I said enough. Sasuke commanded, his Sharingan activated as he stared into Shin's eyes. Huh. Shin found himself restrained by large thick spikes embedded in his joints, making it impossible for him to move. Genjutsu. He thought as his body crashed through a wall and causing debris to fall on top of him, burying him. Now that that's taken care of, Jugo. Sasuke turned around, but Jugo ran past him and towards Shin. Now who's all talk? Jugo screamed as he neared the pile of rubble Shin was buried in, but just then an arm sprouted from the rubble, grabbing Jugo by the throat. What the? Shin's head emerged from the rubble. Gotcha. He smiled victorious as he brought the tip of his black sword against Jugo's stomach. Shin. Sasuke called out. He was surprised that Shin broke his genjutsu. Shin glanced at Sasuke before breaking out in laughter. Relax, Sasuke, I'm just messing with him. I wasn't actually going to kill him, maybe. Shin reassured him through his laughter as he released his grip on Jugo. Jugo, now will you hear me out? Sasuke asked. Jugo looked at Sasuke before glancing at a smiling Shin. I feel strangely calm now. Jugo thought as his mind was no longer filled with murderous thoughts. Alright. I want you to come with me, Jugo. Sasuke said, getting straight to the point. I can't. Kimimaro is the only one who can stop me when I go out of control. Jugo states as he looks around nervously. I can stop you, Shin said, raising his hand. I know why you came to Orochimaru, and I can help you control your murderous impulses. What? Jugo stares at Shin with wide eyes. Yeah, you saw for yourself that I am more than capable, and besides, if you wanted to be free from your dark thoughts, then there is the alternative. Shin tells Jugo as he lifts up his white sword and the blade gleams in the light. Jugo gulps. There is that. He thought. Knock it off, Shin. Jugo, what he said is true. If you come with us, we'll keep you under control. Sasuke assured him. Jugo looked between Sasuke and Shin as he weighed his options. Shin then walks up to him and wraps his arm that's holding his white sword around Jugo's shoulder. Let me put it more simply. Join us or die. Sasuke closed his eyes and sighed in annoyance at Shin's antics, but before he could reprime ND Shin. Jugo spoke up. I'll join you. Shin smiled. Welcome to the team, buddy. He told him as Karen and Suigetsu showed up. Did we miss anything? Suigetsu asks. Nothing important, but say hello to our newest member. Shin tells them, grinning. Great. Another weirdo. Karen thought with annoyance as she watched Shin jump around excitedly. My body's killing me, complained Sakura as every step she took was torture. Why don't you just heal your body, forehead? Ino asked as she walked next to Sakura and not suffering as she was. I'm out of chakra. Sakura groaned. Well, don't worry, I'll fix you up. Ino assured her as she patted Sakura on her back, causing her to wince in pain. Whoops, sorry. Sakura glared at her best friend. Ino had bested her in today's training and she had this smug look on her face. Sakura sighs in exhaustion. Despite putting in more effort, she still ended up struggling today and lost for the second time to Ino. Noticing her friend's gloomy expression, Ino spoke up. What's the matter, Sakura? Still upset that I beat you again? Sakura gritted her teeth. Oh, how Ino always loved to rub her accomplishments in her face. Don't get cocky, Ino pig. I'm just bummed that I didn't do so well in training today. She told her. Don't say that. You put in a lot more effort today than usual. Ino said, trying to cheer up her best friend. Effort alone won't help me get stronger. Really? Have you met Naruto? Ino asked while raising an eyebrow. Okay, you got me there. Sakura admitted as a small smile tugged at the corners of her lips. Remember that these things take time and there are no shortcuts. Ino lectured. Wow, Ino, when did you get so wise? Sakura asks, sounding slightly impressed with her best friend's wisdom. I've always been wise, forehead. You were just too busy trying to get Sasuke to notice you. Ino mocked. Sakura glanced at Ino. Once again she made a jab at Sasuke and she couldn't understand why. Hey Ino, what are your feelings about Sasuke-kun? What do you mean? Ino asks now looking at Sakura. What I mean is, do you still like him romantically? Sakura clarified. Hell no. Ino answered immediately. Sakura was taken aback by Ino's immediate response. Okay, what's going on, Ino? Sakura demanded as she stood in front of Ino. What do you mean? Ino asks while tilting her head to the side. Don't play dumb, you know exactly what I mean. I know for a fact that you loved Sasuke-kun as much as I do and now all of a sudden you don't care. Sakura practically shouted. Ino stared at Sakura before sighing. Look Sakura, first of all I was never in love with Sasuke, I just had a crush on him at the beginning but now I just consider him a friend. But if he continues to act like a jerk he won't even be that. Ino thought the last part. Sakura couldn't believe her ears, just a crush. Sakura thought as she looked into Ino's eyes searching for any hint of a lie. She didn't find any. You're serious, aren't you? Dead serious. Ino told her, watching the look of disbelief on Sakura's face with narrowed eyes. But, how can you just move on? Sakura half asked, half demanded. It's easy, I just tell myself that there are better men out there who are more than happy to notice my existence. I mean, who wouldn't notice all this? Ino said while striking a pose. Sakura looked at Ino from head to toe and her face went red. And another thing, what is with your body suddenly becoming so developed? Sakura demanded. Especially these. She brought up her hands and grabbed Ino's massive. They're freaking huge. Sakura started fondling Ino's. Hey, hands off the merchandise. Ino said as she pried Sakura's hands from her massive. What did you do to get your like that? Sakura demanded. Sorry forehead, but it all comes down to good genetics. Ino tells her while smirking, oh how she was enjoying this. There's no way it's just genetics. Sakura shouted. Ah, don't feel bad Sakura, some of us are just more developed than others. Ino mocked, which caused Sakura to grit her teeth in anger. Come on, cheer up will you? How about we go get some dango, how does that sound? Ino asked good-naturedly as she smacked Sakura's back causing her to scream out in pain. It appears that we've encountered a problem, spoke a hologram of a man as he addressed his companions who were also holograms. Some nobody just showed up and made a mess of things. Kakuzu reported. More like you and Hidan made a mess of things. One of the holograms mocked. Do you think you can do better, Deidara? Kakuzu asked in a warning tone, glaring at him. I know I can do better, Deidara continued mocking. That's enough, we shouldn't be fighting amongst ourselves, ordered the main hologram. This isn't the only issue. Another one of the holograms spoke, this one sounding feminine. Sasuke is on the move and one can guess what his objective is. She finished as all eyes were on Itachi. There's more to it now. Another of the holograms spoke. What is it, Zetsu? Sasuke has gathered up a team and among them is the person who bested Hidan and Kakuzu. Zetsu explained. They could pose a real threat to us, we must take care of them at once. The main hologram ordered before addressing Itachi. Will you be able to deal with your brother, Itachi? I'll deal with Sasuke, there's no need to worry. Itachi assured him before his hologram disappeared. Everyone resume your missions and be on the lookout for Sasuke and his group. He ordered before disappearing and everyone else doing the same. In another location, Sasuke and his new team have just finished gathering supplies. Alright, listen up. Sasuke began to say. From this moment on we will be Team Hubby and our mission is to hunt down Itachi Uchiha. He finished. How will we find him? Jugo asked. By finding his friends and beating the information out of them. Shin answered as he slammed his fist against his palm. That's one method, but I had something else in mind. Sasuke told them as they began to move. So what's our mission, Senpai? A man wearing a spiral orange mask and a black cloak, with red cloud patterns asks his partner. We're going to go take care of a little problem, Toby. Deidara explained as reached underneath his rope and into a bag attached to his belt and pulled out 2 clay birds, which he then enlarged to be able to ride on them. I'm sure Itachi won't mind if I clean up his mess. Deidara thought as he and Toby climbed onto the clay birds and flew off. So what did you want to talk to us about, Granny? Naruto asked as he and Sakura were summoned to the Hokage's office. Tsunade's eye twitched with annoyance but let it go. There have been reports that Sasuke is on the move and he's freeing Orochimaru's prisoners. She told them and waited for their reaction. As she expected, Sakura's reaction was of shock, but Naruto's reaction surprised her. Instead of being shocked, Naruto's eyes narrowed as if he was contemplating what Sasuke's actions could mean. She cast a glance beside her to see Kakashi also noticing Naruto's reaction, and her teammate just smirks. It also appears that Sasuke has gained 3 more allies. Tsunade explained further, and this time Naruto's eyes widen in shock. Sasuke-kun has more allies now. Sakura said aloud as an image of 3 mysterious figures stood beside Sasuke and Shin. Granny, we must do something about Sasuke. Naruto stated, surprising everyone. Naruto, Sakura whispered as she stared at her teammate in surprise. And what do you propose we do, Gaki? Tsunade asks after getting over her surprise earlier. It's simple, we go after the only thing Sasuke wants. Uchiha Itachi. Naruto tells her. Tsunade looks into Naruto's eyes and smirks. Very well, brat. I'll assign another team to go along with Team 7. Meet at the village gate in about an hour. Dismiss. Naruto and Sakura nodded before exiting the Hokage's office. The 3 remaining occupants stood quite before Jiraiya broke the silence. For a second there I thought he was going to suggest we take Sasuke down. Jiraiya said, laughing slightly. That's Naruto for you, you can't tell what he's going to say. Kakashi commented, giving an eye smile. Maybe we're worrying about nothing. Tsunade thought as she got to work on choosing the team that will accompany Team 7. Meanwhile, Naruto was making his way to the Yamanaka flower shop. He needed to see Ino before he went on his mission. When he arrived at the flower shop, he saw Ino at the register helping a costumer. Here are you, ma'am. Ino said as she handed over a bouquet to an older woman. Thank you so much. The woman thanked Ino as she made her way out the door. You're welcome, ma'am, please come again. Ino told her with a smile. Naruto smiled before opening the door for the woman. Thank you, young man. She thanked Naruto as she exited the shop. No problem, ma'am. Naruto replied as he eyed Ino. The woman noticed how Ino and Naruto gazed at each other and smiled. Oh, to be young and in love, she thought as she went on her way. Excuse me, miss, I'm looking for a very attractive woman. Naruto said as he entered the flower shop. I think you need to be more specific, handsome. There are a lot of attractive women that come by here. Ino said, playing along. Maybe, but the woman I'm looking for is unique. Naruto began as he approached the register. She has a pair of beautiful blue eyes, that you can easily lose yourself in them. Naruto stopped in front of Ino as he stared into her eyes. She has the fairest skin among any other woman I've met. He brings up his right hand and places it against the left side of her face, caressing it. She is very stylish and knows exactly which outfit will complement her beauty. Keep talking, stud. Ino tells him as she leans into his hand. She has this wonderful scent that drives me wild. He says huskily as his eyes become slits. Is that so? Ino asks while smiling. Yes, and she has very kissable lips. Naruto said as he leans his head close to Ino's. I bet she's a good kisser. Ino says as she starts to lean towards Naruto with half-closed eyes. You have no idea. Naruto whispers as his lips are inches from Ino's. I think I do. Ino whispers as she closes the remaining distance and kisses Naruto's lips. The kiss is filled with an intense passion and longing. Naruto licks Ino's lower lip, asking for permission to enter, to which Ino complies. His tongue darts inside, meeting hers, and they fight for dominance. Naruto eventually won, and his tongue began exploring Ino's mouth, tasting everything. Their bodies started to get hot, and Ino brought up her hands and ran her fingers through Naruto's golden locks. Naruto brought his right hand down Ino's neck, towards her left, and gave it a squeeze, causing her to moan in the kiss. Unfortunately, all good things had to come to an end as they parted, and leaving a trail of saliva connecting their mouths. "That's some kiss, stud," Ino said between breaths. "Same here," Naruto replies as he leans his forehead against Ino's. "So what mission are you being sent on?" Ino asked as she closed her and inhaled his scent. "How'd you guess?" Naruto asked. "You only ever kiss me like that when you have to go on a long mission." Ino responds as she opens her eyes to reveal that they're slitted. "So what's the mission?" Granny Tsunade is sending Team 7 along with another team to capture Uchiha Itachi. Naruto tells Ino. Ino's eyes widen and she brings her head up to look at Naruto. "Uchiha Itachi? The guy that nearly captured you when you went to look for Lady Tsunade?" she asked. "That's the one," Naruto confirmed, smiling nervously. "Are you crazy?" Ino screamed, causing Naruto to reel back. "Why the hell are you going after him?" "Because if we capture him, we can lure Sasuke back to the village," Naruto explained. Ino stared at him in disbelief. "So you're willing to put yourself in danger for someone like him?" she said coldly. Naruto was slightly taken aback by her tone. "Ino. Naruto-kun, things aren't what they used to be. We have a family now, you can't continue being so reckless. If we lost you." Ino trailed off as tears began to form in her eyes. Naruto understood what Ino was going to say. He walked around the counter and embraced his mate. Ino wrapped her arms around Naruto, burying her face in his chest as she let her tears fall. They stayed that way for several minutes until Naruto felt that Ino was beginning to calm down. "I'm sorry for making you feel this way, Ino-chan," he began to say as he rubbed Ino's back. "But I'm not being reckless, I promise. I have everything planned out. I'm not going to get myself captured," he assured her. Ino lifted her head from Naruto's chest to stare at him. "Naruto-kun, what if you encounter Sasuke's team? Then we'll fight and capture them," Naruto responded. "Baka, what are you going to do if you fight Shin?" Ino shouted. "Oh him." Naruto scratched the back of his head nervously. "He overpowered 2 of the best Jonin from Konoha and 2 Akatsuki members. Even we couldn't so much as put a scratch on him," argued Ino. "Well, we didn't use our full power since there were witnesses," Naruto defended. "My point exactly. You won't be able to go all out with everyone watching," Ino told him. "And I won't be there to back you up." "But I will." A startled Naruto and Ino quickly turned towards the direction of the voice, but relaxed as soon as they realized who it was. "Hinata-chan," Naruto called out happily as he went to greet her. "Hi Naruto-kun." Hinata greeted bashfully as Naruto lifted her off the ground and spun her around. "Naruto-kun," she squealed joyfully, before Naruto set her down and covered her lips with his in a heated kiss. "Hey Hinata," Ino greeted as she walked around the counter to stand before them. Hinata regretfully parted from the kiss to address Ino. "Hello Ino. What did you mean earlier?" Ino asked. "Lady Tsunade has assigned Team 8 to assist Team 7 in capturing Uchiha Itachi," Hinata explained. "That's awesome, see Ino-chan. You have nothing to worry about," Naruto said excitedly as his hold on Hinata tightened. Hinata just laid her head on Naruto's shoulder and sighed happily. "On the contrary, now I have more to worry about." Ino sighed as she crossed her arms. "Seriously Hinata, this Shin is no joke, so please be careful." Hinata removed herself from Naruto's arms to stand before Ino. "Don't worry Ino, we'll be careful," Hinata assured Ino as she placed her hand on her shoulders. Ino looked into Hinata's eyes before her eyes start glowing, which causes Naruto and Hinata's eyes to glow. I'm sharing with you our battle with Shin. Ino explained as the glowing stopped to reveal their slitted eyes. Good luck and be careful, she told them as she hugged Hinata. Thank you, Ino, we will. Hinata assured her as they pulled back from their hug, but still held on to each other. And don't worry, I'll make sure Naruto stays out of trouble. Hey, see that you do, Ino said while giggling. Hinata took a hold of Naruto's left arm and led him out the flower shop. See you when I get back, Ino-chan, I love you. Naruto managed to say before he was pulled out of the shop. I love you too, Ino whispered as she watched them disappear around the corner. She brings her right hand up and places it on her chest over her heart. Please come back to me, safe and sound, Ino thought before going back to the register. An hour later, Team 8 and Team 7 have gathered at the village gate. They are all wearing cloaks to protect them against the rain that was beginning to fall. Alright, everyone listen up. Kakashi gathered everyone's attention on him before continued. I assume all of you know about what our mission is. He began, to which everyone nodded. What you don't know is that we might be encountering Sasuke's team, more specifically an individual named Shin. This individual was able to best Kakashi, Asuma and their teams. He was even able to best two Akatsuki members. Yamato explained, making Kiba's eyes widen. So it's important to exercise extreme caution. If you spot Sasuke's team, or Itachi and his partner Kisame, don't engage. Kakashi finished and everyone nodded in agreement. Alright, let's begin. With that said, everyone was on their way. Don't you just love the rain? Shin asked. No one in particular as stretched his arms out and looked up at the sky, letting the rain hit his face. Forgive me for not sharing your enthusiasm, Karen said sarcastically as the rain pelted against her cloak as the group made their way through a forest. Shin, aren't you afraid you'll catch a cold? Jugo asked. Nah, I never get sick, he responded. Idiots never do, Karen muttered before suddenly stopping. What's wrong, Karen? Sasuke asked, turning around to face her. I sense 2 chakra signatures approaching, Karen warned everyone. Shin spotted something in the sky that was quickly approaching him. The object in question was a hummingbird that was completely white. Cool bird. He was fascinated by the unusual bird that he lifted his right arm so the bird could perch on his finger. No, wait, don't. Karen tried to warn Shin just as the bird perched on his finger. Huh, was all Shin said as suddenly the bird exploded. Shin, Sasuke called out. My, that was easy. Everyone looked up in the direction of the voice to see 2 Akatsuki members riding on giant birds. The expression on his face was priceless, truly worthy of my art. Deidara commented. Akatsuki. Karen muttered. Nice one, senpai. Toby cheered. Kakuzu and Hidan must have been weak if this guy managed to get the better of them. Deidara mocked. Or I could just be that strong. Every was startled by the voice and turned to the spot where Shin was to hear coughing noises. Impossible, Deidara muttered as he watched Shin walk out of the smoke. I gotta admit, that certainly packed a punch, Shin said, wincing a little as his clothes were covered in ash but are intact. Ah, he rose from the dead, Toby commented. So you survived that, no matter. That was one of my lower explosives. I have more that'll put you down for good, Deidara said confidently. That's good. I thought I was going to disappointed for a minute there, but it looks like I might actually enjoy this fight. Shin smirked as he summoned his swords. You'll soon regret those words, Deidara warned as he swooped down towards them. One of us will, Shin said confidently as he prepared to strike down Deidara, but at the last minute he jumped off the bird. No problem, I can still cut down your bird, he declared as he swung his black sword. Don't count on it, Katsu, Deidara shouted as he made a half-tiger, ram hand sign causing the bird to detonate before Shin could cut it. Shin, Sasuke called out as he watched his comrade get engulfed by a big explosion while he and the others jumped to safety. That idiot. Karen muttered but was still worried for her comrade's safety. You should worry about yourselves more. Deidara said while standing on a tree branch as he reached into his bag and pulled out a handful of clay spheres and threw them at Sasuke's team. Sasuke's team managed to dodge them, but as soon as they hit the ground, the clay spheres turned into spiders and began to scatter across the surrounding forest. Senpai, I'm all done setting up. Toby called out to Deidara. Good job, Toby. Deidara complimented as he reached into his bag and the mouths on his palms opened up and started to chew some clay. Senpai, behind you, Toby warned. Deidara turned his head around to see Shin coming down on him. Gotcha, Shin said as he swung his white sword, unleashing a wave of energy at Deidara, who jumped out of the way to avoid it. However, Shin expected that and used a nearby tree branch to propel himself back at Deidara. He swung his swords in an X pattern, cutting Deidara into pieces. Too easy. Shin smirked only to have it disappear as Deidara turned to clay. A substitution, he thought as he suddenly felt several taps on his back. The hell? Katsu, Deidara said as the clay spiders on Shin's back exploded. Yeah, you got him this time, partner. Toby cheered happily. Shut up, Toby. If it was that easy, he would have gone done earlier and pay attention. He could. Deidara cut himself off as a black sword shot out from the smoke towards Toby. Was all Toby could say as the black sword pierced right through his chest and he fell forward onto the ground. One down, Shin told himself as he jumped out of the smoke to land in front of Toby. His clothes were charred from the explosions. Idiot, I told you to pay attention. Deidara scolded his partner as he landed on a nearby tree branch. But Senpai, it was too fast. Toby explained as he suddenly stood up. He stood back up. Shin's eyes widened in surprise. He could have sworn that his sword pierced through him. Wah! Toby yelled in surprise at seeing Shin in front of him and jumped back. He's a little jumpy, isn't he? Shin said aloud as he walked over to his black sword but then stepped on something soft. Huh! Another explosion suddenly consumed Shin. Fool, you should have watched your footing and maybe you could have avoided the landmine. Deidara thought as he discreetly released clay insects from his palms that jump onto the tree trunk. I need to increase the amount of C1 grade explosives around the field. Coughing can be heard as Shin walks out of the smoke. His clothes are only charred but his body appears to have taken some damage. Now that hurt. Shin winced as he observed his surroundings. How much more can he take? Suigetsu asked as he watched the battle. They appeared to be concentrating their attacks on him. Jugo commented. Then they won't pay much attention to us. Karen added in, but then several clay spiders jumped at them from the tree tops. Watch out, Suigetsu warned, but then Sasuke gathered lightning chakra into his left hand, swung it in front of himself, releasing several needles made of lightning that pinned the clay spiders to the tree trunks. Nice one, Sasuke-kun. Karen cheered. Keep your guard up, Sasuke told her as he activated his Sharingan. Let's see how you deal with this. Deidara said as he extended his arms toward Shin and a thin line of clay shoots out of the mouths on his palms. The ends of the clay begin to form into two humanoid figures. Easy, Shin said as he slashed one with his swords only to have them stuck in its body. Maybe not. He tried to pull his swords out but they wouldn't budge. Alright then. He gathered chakra into his white sword and slashed through the clay creature and doing the same to the other and freeing his black sword. Is that the best you've got? Better look again, Deidara said as the halves of the clay creatures that are still connected by the clay string attacked Shin. No problem, said Shin as he dodged the creature's attacks. He didn't see another clay string extend from the main one and connected to the clay parts that he chopped off, bringing them to life and joining the attack. Still no problem, he said as he slashed the clay creatures only for more strings to extend from the main one and connect to the pieces on the ground and resume fighting. No problem at all. he continues to say as he slashes at the clay creatures with his white sword only to have the same thing happen again. Will you stop slashing them? Karen yelled in annoyance as Shin was surrounded. And now, Deidara muttered as 4 large clay grasshoppers sprang from the ground and latched onto his elbows, knees and wrists. Ah, get 'em off! Shin yelled as he tried to shake off the grasshoppers, but then they detonated. Shin! Sasuke called out as he jumped from the tree branch at Deidara but was blocked by the numerous clay creatures. Sasuke! Suigetsu cried out as Sasuke was surrounded. TCH. Sasuke channeled lightning chakra into his blade and began cutting the creatures that jumped at him. Didn't you learn anything from your friend? Deidara mocked as Sasuke was trapped. I'm boxed in, Sasuke thought as the clay creatures in front of him lunged at him only to be obliterated by an energy wave. Aren't you forgetting about someone? Shin said as he staggered forward. Hey look senpai, he's hurt. Toby pointed out. Yes, it appears that he's reached his limit on how much damage he can take, and since his swords can't absorb anything that puts him at a disadvantage. Deidara concluded. So you know about my swords? Shin asked as every step he takes causes his knees pain. Of course, we wouldn't fight you unprepared. My art is perfectly suitable to dealing with you. Deidara explained as the clay creatures prepare to jump on Sasuke. Shin readies himself to unleash another energy wave when a C1 explosive spider jumped on his wrist and exploded, causing Shin to drop his white sword. Damn, Shin muttered as he winced in pain. I might as well take care of Sasuke now, sorry Itachi. Deidara said as all the clay creatures jumped at Sasuke. Sasuke-kun. Sasuke. Sasuke watched in slow motion as the clay creatures closed in on him. Is this it? Is this how it ends? Sasuke braces himself for the inevitable, but he feels a tug at the back of his shirt hauling him back. Jugo catch. Shin said as he throws Sasuke at Jugo, who managed to catch him. He fell for it. Deidara thought as all the clay creatures jumped on Shin and covered him with explosive clay. Toby now. Right. Toby said as he pulled several lines of invisible wire, causing the landmines to spring from the ground and surround Shin. I hope you enjoy this. I prepared it especially for you so that you'll understand, art is an explosion. Deidara said as the mines and clay figures exploded at once. Run! Sasuke ordered as the explosion started spreading outwards, but their path was blocked by numerous clay spiders. We're trapped, Suigetsu said as the explosion was getting closer. Sasuke channeled lightning chakra into his right hand, then released several Chidori Senbon at the spiders, rendering them harmless. Go! They resumed their pace until the explosion stopped. As the smoke begins to clear, they can see that the forest is gone in the area of the explosion. I think you got him this time, senpai. Toby states as he looks around the devastated area from on top of a clay bird. Is he really gone? Suigetsu asks. Karen. Sasuke calls Karen's name. On it. Karen said as she closed her eyes and started concentrating. Quote. I sense him. Impossible. There's no way he could have survived that. Suigetsu doubted Karen. Where is he? Sasuke asked. Over there. Karen pointed towards the center of the area where a hand bursts out of the ground. Shin's upper body emerges from the ground and grabbing on to the charred earth, he drags himself completely out of the ground. He turns himself to lie on his back as he catches his breath. That was close, Shin said between breaths. His body was covered in dirt, sweat and burn marks. You're a lot tougher than I gave you credit for. Deidara complimented. Senpai, do you think he's immortal like Hidan senpai? Toby asked. Don't be ridiculous, this guy can't be immortal. Deidara disagreed. Yeah, who the hell wants that? Shin added to the conversation as he lied on the ground staring at the dark sky. Immortality is a joke. I've encountered people who said they're immortal, and you know what I did? I killed them. I mean, come on, if you're immortal then how can I kill you? Shin paused for a minute before continuing. But then again, they probably never faced someone like me before. Just who the hell are you? Deidara shouted as he was becoming annoyed with Shin. I'm the wrench in everyone's plans. Shin said simply as he started to stand up. You're really an annoying person. Deidara said with a tick on his head. That I am, Shin admitted proudly. Fine then, let's see how you deal with this. Deidara said as he slams his palms together, and as he parts them he creates a massive clay dragon. Behold my C2 dragon. He announces as he jumps on its back. So it's time for round 2. Shin asked no one in particular as he summoned his swords. I have to finish this fast. Shin thought to himself as his legs felt like jelly. Don't try to act tough, I know you can barely stand. Deidara noted as one of the segments of his C2 dragon's tail withdrew into the next segment. When that happened, its mouth became full and it opens its mouth to reveal a smaller clay dragon about the size of the bird Deidara was riding on earlier. Let's see you dodge this, he says as the C2 dragon spits out the smaller dragon at Shin. Don't need to, Shin says as he channels chakra into his white sword and swings it forward, creating a crescent energy wave that heads toward the dragon. Hey, Deidara smirks as his clay dragon dodges Shin's attack. It dodge it, Shin said in surprise as the dragon continued toward him. He jumped out of the way, but the dragon made a U-turn and continued its course. It's a guided missile, Shin concluded as he braced for impact, but the dragon was hit with a fireball and exploded. What? Deidara said in shock before sensing someone behind him. He turned his head around to see Sasuke in his curse mark level 2 form with a Chidori in his left hand about to pierce him. Like I'll let you. Deidara fully turns around and throws several clay balls at Sasuke that turn into spiders. Sasuke merely swings his left arm in front of him and releases several Chidori Senbon that pierce the clay spiders and nullify them. But the C2 dragon swings its tail and knocks Sasuke away. Senpai. Tobi shouts. Don't worry about him, Suigetsu says as he appears behind Tobi and swings his Kubikiribocho right through Tobi. Yikes, Tobi said as the blade passed through him. What the hell? Suigetsu was surprised that his attack failed. Normal attacks won't work on him, Jugo told him. So you finally decided to join in, Deidara said as he eyed Sasuke from on top of his C2 dragon. Shin, can you still fight? Sasuke asked while keeping his eyes on Deidara. Yeah, Shin answered as he dusted himself off. How much do you think you can take from those bombs? I can probably take one more crazy plan, Shin answered. Then let's go, Sasuke said, and they both jumped high into the air. Do you honestly believe you can reach me? Deidara mocked as his C2 dragon spat out another clay dragon. Sasuke weaved through hand signs and called out his attack. Fire style. Fireball jutsu. He unleashed a massive fireball from his mouth at the clay dragon, but it simply dodged it. Shin swung his swords, creating a pressure wave in the form of an X, but it still dodged it. It started heading towards Shin, and as it got close, Shin pulled on some ninja wire that the other end Sasuke had to pull himself away. You think that'll do any good? Deidara said as two more segments of the C2 dragon's tail shrunk into the other and it spat out another clay dragon, but this one was packed a more powerful punch. Both of the clay dragons aimed for Shin, but using the ninja wire he maneuvered himself away from them. It seems to be working so far, Shin mocked as he continued to outmaneuver the clay dragons. Why you? Deidara is becoming increasingly frustrated with Shin, but then he notices two giant shuriken coming at him from the sides. Like this'll get me, Deidara said as the C2 dragon dodged the shuriken. Wasn't supposed to. Deidara looks back to Shin and Sasuke in time to see Sasuke swing Shin towards him. So that was their plan. Deidara maneuvered the C2 dragon to the side, but it was immediately hit by the shuriken. No way. Gotcha now, Shin said as he tackled Deidara. Damn, Deidara grunted as Shin wrapped his arms around him. Let go. Nope. Now you'll experience what your art feels like. Shin said as Deidara noticed his clay dragons coming towards them. Are you insane? Deidara screamed as he struggled to escape Shin's grip. Yup. Shin smiled as the clay dragons collided with him and engulfed them both in a huge explosion. Deidara. Toby cried out. That was his plan. Karen shouted in disbelief. Oh senpai, I knew you would die from bombing. Toby sobbed. Shut up Toby. Toby looked up to see Deidara jump out of the smoke. Senpai, you're alive. Of course I am, Deidara said. As he skidded across the ground, his Akatsuki cloak was gone. But where's Shin? Karen asked, and then she saw something descend from the smoke and hit the ground. God, did that hurt? Shin said as he lied on his back. You bastard, what kind of maniac does that? Deidara asks, annoyed. You're looking at him. Shin responds, smiling. Let's see you smile after this. Deidara says before grabbing some clay from his bag and consuming it using his own mouth. He then spews out a massive amount of clay and it forms a giant doll in his image. This is my ultimate creation, my C4. Deidara boasted as the C4 started to swell up. With his Sharingan, Sasuke saw a large build-up of chakra. Suigetsu, Karen, Jugo, run as far away from here as possible. Sasuke warned urgently. Too late, Deidara said as his C4 ruptures, releasing a white cloud. No, Sasuke screamed in his head as he saw with his Sharingan the chakra spreading out rapidly. There's no way we can outrun that. Karen shrieks, but then she is suddenly lifted off the ground and before she could say anything she was on the move at an incredible speed. What the hell? She thought as she suddenly stopped and was set down. She looked at the person who carried her and it was Shin. Shin, did you just? I'll explain later, I need to get the others first. Shin told her as his black sword began to glow and he disappeared, leaving a trail of dust behind him. He's fast, Karen said out loud as she noticed her surroundings. Just where the heck am I? Shin quickly got back to the others and picked up Suigetsu and dropping him off where Karen was. What the hell just happened? Suigetsu asks Karen, confused. Shin happened. Karen simply told him. Suigetsu was interrupted as something heavy fell on top of him. Jugo's here, so that only leaves Sasuke-kun. Karen noted with a smirk as she pushed up her glasses. Back at the battlefield, Sasuke blinked in confusion. 1 minute he was telling his team to run, then the next they were all gone. What's going on? He muttered to himself just as Shin appeared in front of him. Sasuke, come on, you're the last one. Shin said urgently, but then fell to his knees. No, not now. He screamed in his head. Now you're both dead, Deidara said as he made a hand sign. Sasuke looked at his arm and noticed that it was disintegrating. What's happening? Sasuke said in horror as the rest of his body started to fade. Sasuke! Shin shouted as he noticed that he too was fading. What the hell is happening to me? He screamed as both him and Sasuke faded away. Deidara took off the device attached to his left eye and looked at the area. I did it, I got rid of both of them. Deidara yelled in victory, but then felt something ram through his chest. Ah! He turned his head around to see Sasuke's Sharingan. You! Deidara said as he lifted his arms only to have a white sword run through his wrists. Don't forget about me, Shin said in front of him. Hey! Did you honestly think I would fall for your genjutsu? Deidara said from behind Sasuke as the one that got run through started to dissolve into clay. Huh! Both Shin and Sasuke said in unison as suddenly they were surrounded by a dome of clay. Ever since my encounter with Itachi, I have trained my left eye to see through genjutsu. Deidara said as his body started to bloat. And I created this technique to specifically deal with the Sharingan, he said as he exploded. Outside the dome, the real Deidara was resting against a tree. Finally got rid of them, he muttered as he leaned his head back and closed his eyes. I wouldn't be so sure. Deidara's eyes snapped open and sees Shin and Sasuke standing a few feet away. Impossible. He lifted his hands and launched clay snakes that wrapped around Sasuke's legs, but Sasuke covers his body in lightning and the snakes stop moving. The lightning follows the snake's bodies back to Deidara and he cuts of the connection. I figured out that your clay is an earth-style jutsu, so my lightning affinity should disable your bombs. Sasuke explained as he approached Deidara. I can also see the chakra of your attack, so I knew what it was. Damn you, curse you Uchiha and your Sharingan, always judging my art just like your brother. Deidara yelled at Sasuke. Where is Itachi? Sasuke asked as he approached. That's all you care about. Where your brother is, you won't even acknowledge my art. Deidara said as he ripped off his shirt, revealing a mouth on his chest over his heart that is stitched up. He removes the stitches and feeds the mouth a ball of explosive clay. Dark lines start spreading throughout his body. This is my ultimate art. I'm going to detonate myself. He's insane. Sasuke thought, alarmed. In death I shall become my art itself. No one has seen an explosion of this magnitude that'll leave a scar on the earth itself. Deidara said as it started spreading through his veins. I'll receive more adoration for my art than anyone else. Deidara continued as the veins started receding into the mouth on his chest. Sorry, Toby. Sasuke turned around to run, but Deidara said, the explosion will cover 10 kilometers, so there is no way you can outrun it, especially with the condition your friend is in. He motioned to Shin, who was in pretty bad shape. Tremble in despair. Cower in awe, because my art. Deidara trailed off as only the outline of his body was left besides a dark ball on his chest which started to crack. Sasuke. Shin called out to Sasuke. As an explosion, Deidara finished as the mouth on his chest detonated. Meanwhile, Karen, Suigetsu and Jugo were waiting for Sasuke and Shin to arrive when they saw a bright light from where Sasuke and Shin were fighting Deidara. What was that? Suigetsu asked. You don't think? Karen trailed off as she was the bright light get bigger and sprouted what looked like arms. However, they aren't the only ones to notice it, as the Sasuke retrieval team are staring right at it. What the hell is that? Kiba said in surprise. It could be a lead. Everyone, let's go look into it. Kakashi ordered as they begin to head towards the giant light. Back to where Sasuke's team is, they started making their way towards the explosion site, and when they arrived at the edge of the blast radius they were surprised to see a line of trees stretching out the length of the blast. What the heck? Karen was confused at what she's seeing. Shouldn't that be destroyed? Suigetsu commented as they headed towards the center of the blast where they saw Sasuke and Shin, who was sitting on the ground panting. Sasuke-kun. Karen called out, gaining the two's attention. Hey. Shin waved at them before wincing. How the hell did you two survive that? Suigetsu asked. Sasuke looked at Shin before answering. He cut the explosion. Come again? Karen asked, not believing what she heard. You heard what he said. I cut the explosion with this beauty right here. He motioned to his black sword. Just what are your swords anyway? Suigetsu asked. Well, this one is call. Shin didn't finish as he fell back. Shin. Sasuke went to check on him and sighed in relief when he was just sleeping. Guess he's only human after all. Karen snickered before she suddenly tensed. What's wrong, Karen? Sasuke asked, noticing her tense up. I detect several chakra signatures approaching this location. Karen informed everyone. Then let's move out. Jugo, carry Shin. Sasuke ordered as Jugo picked up Shin as he still held his black sword and placed him on his shoulder, and they left the area. Moments later the Sasuke retrieval team arrived at the blast zone. What happened here? Kiba commented. And what's with the trees? Naruto pointed out. Kakashi examined the area. There was a battle here. Kakashi pointed out. Between who? Sakura asked. Kakashi observed closely a specific spot. Shin and Sasuke were here. They were. Sakura blurted out. Yes. Kakashi confirmed as he bit his thumb and did a couple hand signs before slamming his palm on the ground and summoning Pakun. Yo. Pakun greeted, raising his paw. Pakun, I need you to pick up Sasuke's scent. Kakashi ordered. Gotcha. Pakun agreed as he started sniffing the area Kakashi pointed to. This way, Pakun said as he led the way. We're coming for you, Sasuke. Naruto thought as he and his team followed Pakun. We're being followed. Karen informed everyone as she sensed the chakra signatures from earlier following them. What should we do? Jugo asked as suddenly Shin's black sword started glowing before slipping from his hand. It embedded itself into the ground and cracks started forming towards the direction where their pursuers were. What now? Karen groaned as the cracks started to collapse, forming a deep crater that continues along the path of the rest of the cracks. I believe that should stop our pursuers. Jugo commented as Shin's black sword disappeared. Then let's keep moving, Sasuke ordered as they continued on their way. Back with Naruto's group, they were following Pakun when Hinata's eyes suddenly widened. Stop, she yelled, making everyone stop. What is it, Hinata-chan? Naruto asks worriedly. There's something heading for us, Hinata stated, and as soon as she said that, cracks started forming underneath them and the ground started to collapse underneath them. Run, Kakashi ordered as they jumped from the collapsing ground and headed in the opposite direction. It's catching up to us, Pakun noted from Kakashi's shoulder. Damn, we can't outrun it, Kiba said as the cracks started to close in on the fast. Hinata activated her Byakugan and saw something odd about the ground. She suddenly stopped, which caused everyone to look at her in shock. Hinata, what are you doing? Sakura shouted in disbelief. Come on, Hinata, we have to move, Kiba told her, but Hinata gave him a determined look. Hinata-chan. Naruto looked at Hinata. Are you sure? He said mentally. Don't worry, she told Naruto as she turned to face the incoming cracks. She took a deep breath before doing a Juken strike on the ground and causing it to collapse horizontally almost the entire width of the blast area, effectively stopping the cracks' advance. Incredible, I didn't know you could do that. Kiba stared in awe at Hinata's display of skill. Very impressive, Hinata. How did you know that would work? Kakashi questioned in an impressed tone as he observed the fissure Hinata made. Well, I noticed with my Byakugan that there was a force underneath the surface that was causing the ground to start collapsing in a domino effect, so I just made a space to disrupt that flow, Hinata explained bashfully. Wow, you're amazing, Hinata. Naruto complimented Hinata, feeling very proud of her. Thank you, Naruto-kun. Hinata thanked Naruto shyly. It felt very good to be praised by her mate. Sakura looked at the fissure Hinata made. This is no small feat, Sakura mentally noted as she went to inspect the fissure. She touched the edge and immediately pulled it back when she felt a shocking sensation. Electricity, Sakura whispered as she noticed some signs of lightning across the edge. Did she use a lightning-style jutsu combined with her Juken to do this? Sakura thought before standing up. I never knew Hinata was capable of something like this. Sakura balled up her fists. Am I being left behind again? She mentally asks herself as it started to rain, unaware that Sai was watching. Kakashi concluded that they couldn't follow the trail, for it would take too long to go around the collapsed earth, and by the time they did, the rain would have washed away the scent. So they found a spot where Captain Yamato used his wood-style technique to create a house for everyone to sleep comfortably. Man, this is how you camp out, Kiba said as he laid on his sleeping bag. A lantern is placed nearby to illuminate the room. Yeah, this is pretty nice, Naruto agreed as he laid down on his sleeping bag with his hands behind his head. Man, I wish we had Captain Yamato whenever our team goes out on missions. We never have to worry about finding shelter if he can summon a house on a whim, Kiba said while grinning. Yes, Captain Yamato would certainly make finding shelter easy, Shino complimented. Thanks. Yamato smiled bashfully. You're certainly receiving plenty of compliments today, Kakashi noted. Meanwhile, in another room, Sakura and Hinata are spreading out their sleeping bags as they prepare for bed. Captain Yamato is really amazing to be able to do this, Hinata told Sakura as she sat on her sleeping bag. Yeah, I was amazed the first time he did this, and best of all, we have our own room. Sakura said, giggling. Hinata joined her as she started taking off her jacket and change into her nightwear. It was then that Sakura's eyes widened at seeing Hinata's figure. Her are huge and are straining against her mesh armor, much bigger than Ino's and possibly bigger than Tsunade's. Her impressive bust made her already slim waistline look even slimmer. Hinata removed her pants, revealing her fabulously sexy legs, with black lace panties that show off her nicely shaped butt. Sakura stared with her jaw dropped. Hinata looked like a character from one of Jiraiya's erotic novels. Since when did Hinata had a body like that? She thought to herself as she watched Hinata put on an oversized t-shirt and short shorts. Hinata noticed Sakura staring and blushed. Sakura-san, why are you staring? Hinata asked bashfully. Hinata, you have an incredible body. Sakura told her, still in awe. I do. Hinata asked. She knew that her body was more developed than other women even before Naruto marked her and she went through her transformation. Her fellow vixens always said that she had the biggest in all the world, even bigger than Tsunade's, especially in her vixen form. Yeah, Sakura said as she got close to Hinata and placed her hands on her shoulders. Hinata, you have to tell me your secret. Secret? Hinata asked, feeling uncomfortable. Yes, how did you get your to be so big? Is it your diet? Some special technique maybe? Sakura questioned as she brought her face closer to Hinata. Hinata was blushing furiously at Sakura's questions. Please excuse me for a minute, she said as she quickly made her way out the door. Sakura sighed before flopping down on her sleeping bag. Maybe I went too far, she said out loud as she stared at the ceiling. Outside the room, Hinata was leaning against the door and sighed. Are these really that desirable? She said as she cupped her in her palms. Well, Naruto-kun certainly likes them a lot. She then thought of how Naruto plays with her whenever they make love, which causes her body to get hot. Katsu and Katsuo love to snuggle against them too. She smiles when she thought of her sons. Ordinarily she would leave a shadow clone behind so that her sons won't notice her missing, but on higher rank missions she can't risk her clone disappearing on them if she gets knocked out. Like her fellow vixens, Hinata had to stay with her kits for almost 3 weeks since they can't thermoregulate since they were born foxes, but they used that time to bond with their kits. She let out an audible sigh. She couldn't believe she was able to hide her pregnancy from her clan, but thanks to a special seal that the main house created to prevent the branch house from spying on them, she was able to prevent her clan from seeing her developing children. However, she couldn't hide her growing stomach as it grew at a faster rate due to her being a fox, so she and her fellow vixens discussed with Naruto that they would leave the village for the remainder of their pregnancy, but on the pretense that they were going on vacation. Hinata smiled fondly as she remembered their vacation. Naruto had been very attentive to their needs and he barely let them out of bed. She had never seen Naruto so nervous, as he never let them out of his sights even when he was searching for a den they could live in. Hinata then proceeded to walk down the hall and make her way towards the living room area of the house, which had a wooden table with wooden chairs. She sat on one of the chairs and began to reminisce on the day that set her on the path she was in. Flashback. Hinata took deep breaths as she mentally prepared herself for what she was about to do. Okay, you can do this. Just walk up to him and ask him out, she repeated in her head as she peeked around the corner of a fence to see Naruto walking towards her direction. Who am kidding, I can't do this. Hinata mentally panicked but shook her head and patted her face. No, you can't give up this easily. You have to make a move now or Naruto-kun will never notice you, she thought as she steeled her resolve. She went around the corner but collided with something hard. I'm so sorry, I wasn't looking where I was going, she immediately apologized, casting her gaze down. Don't worry, Hinata-chan, it's okay. Hinata looked up at the person she bumped into and realized it was Naruto. Naruto-kun. That's my name, Naruto replied, smiling. Hinata's face turned red as she realized how close she was to Naruto. He noticed her reddening face and became concerned. Hinata-chan, are you alright? He asks her as he placed his right hand against her forehead, causing Hinata's face to turn a deeper shade of red. You don't feel hot, but your face is really red though. Hinata stood there unable to move as she looked into Naruto's eyes. He has really nice eyes, she thought as she continued to stare deep into them. She then noticed a very pleasant smell coming from Naruto. Is Naruto-kun wearing cologne? It smells really nice, she thought to herself as her eyelids became heavy. Hinata-chan. Yes, she said softly. Do you want to go get some ramen with me? Hinata's eyes widened as she registered what he just said. You want me to eat with you? Yeah, that's if you want to. Naruto told her. Yes, I would love to, she replied eagerly. Great, Naruto said as he offered his arm to Hinata. Is this what I think it is? Hinata thought as she wrapped her arms around his and he led her to Ichiraku. Yes, it is, she mentally cheered. Flashback end. Hinata smiled at the memory. Even if it was just eating ramen they both enjoyed themselves. She later found out that the pleasant smell was actually his pheromones, and she mentally laughed when she ate more ramen than Naruto and made him drop his appetite since he couldn't keep up with her. And that was before I was pregnant too, she thought to herself while giggling. She then sensed someone's presence behind her and smiled as her fox ears emerged from on top of her head. She felt someone's hands on her shoulders and start to massage them. She gave a pleased sigh as she felt her shoulders start to relax. How does that feel? It feels wonderful, Naruto-kun, Hinata said as she leaned her head back and let out a moan. Naruto smiled before leaning his head down and capturing Hinata's lips in a heated kiss. Hinata quickly got into the kiss as she brought her arms up to wrap around Naruto's head. Naruto licked Hinata's lower lip asking for permission to enter her mouth. Hinata complies as she opens her mouth and her tongue darts out meeting his. As their tongues battle for dominance, their bodies start to get hot. They eventually part due to lack of air, leaving a thin line of saliva connecting their mouths. Hinata-chan, if I didn't know any better I'd say you were trying to tempt me with the way you're dressed, Naruto noted as he stared at Hinata's voluptuous legs. And what if I am? She teasingly asked as she rose from her seat to stand in front of Naruto. Then I'll have to punish you, Naruto said huskily as his fox ears emerged from on top of his head. Oh, I would like to see you try, Hinata purred as her eyes became slits. Care to take this outside? He asks as he leans his forehead against hers. Let's, Hinata replies as they make their way out the door. 3 hours later, Sakura was sound asleep on her side facing the wall when she heard the door to the room open and the sound of footsteps entering the room, but something was off about them. The footsteps were uneven as if the person was having trouble keeping themselves balanced. She also heard a tapping sound along with the footsteps. It sounds the same as when Akamaru walks around the house and his claws made this tapping noise every time he stepped on the wooden floor. She opens her eyes slightly and sees the shadow of what she assumes is an animal since it has pointed ears and a long muzzle. I must be dreaming, she thought as she attempted to go back to sleep, but then she heard a moan which causes her eyes to snap open and sees the shadow of the animal throw its head back, revealing it to be female due to its large. Wait a minute, animals don't have that big. Especially ones that look human, she thought as she watched the shadow fall forward and disappearing behind her shadow. She contemplated turning around and after gathering some courage she slowly turned around and came face to face with the sleeping form of Hinata. What the? Sakura thought as she sits up and rubs her eyes. She looks at Hinata again and she's sleeping peacefully in her sleeping bag. Was it just a dream? Sakura said out loud before laying back on her sleeping bag. She looked at Hinata and noticed the content smile on her face. She must be having a good dream, Sakura whispered before going back to sleep. Meanwhile, so Sasuke has taken down Deidara. A man with orange hair and multiple piercings on his face asks. Yes, although he had help from his team, more specifically Shin. Another figure says as he's adjusting his gear. We've lost someone who had an advantage over Sasuke's ace. A woman with blue hair and a piercing on her lower lip asks. Indeed, but now that he's no longer with us, Sasuke's team remains unchecked. The unknown figure says as he finishes getting ready. Where did Sasuke find such an individual? The woman asks out loud. The world is vast, there are plenty of strong individuals that chose to remain hidden. The man with orange hair responds to her. In any case, we have to be prepared to deal with him. I don't believe Sasuke is truly in command of someone as powerful as him. The unknown figure says. And what if he is? What do you intend to do about it, Toby, or should we refer to you as Madara now? The orange figure asks. Madara will do. I think it's time to end THS charade and claim back my power. Madara declares. Konan, Pain, you two continue gathering the Jinchuriki. I'll see what I can do about Sasuke. He told them before leaving as lightning flashes in the distance. The next morning the rain has finally subsided and the Sasuke retrieval team was able to continue their mission. Can you smell anything, Pakun? Kakashi asks. No, the rain has washed away the scent. Pakun told him. I see, well thanks anyway. Kakashi thanked the small dog. So now we're back to square one. Yamato said. Then let's continue searching for Itachi then. Naruto said with determination, and this will make it easier. He made a hand sign and several Naruto clones appeared, everyone nodded as they continued their search for Itachi. In another location, Sasuke's team is also on the move. Shin has now fully recovered and back to his old self. Ah, it's great to be alive. Shin said happily. Hey, you still haven't told us about your swords. Karen reminded Shin. Oh yeah, then let me enlighten you. Shin said as he began to explain. This lovely lady right here is Blanc. He summoned his white sword. And this beauty right here is Nor. He summoned his black sword in his other hand. Nor has the ability to absorb any physical impact and render cause of it useless. So when you blocked my attack, you were absorbing it? Jugo asked. Yep, and no matter how much pressure you exert, it would be as if you aren't doing anything. Shin said smiling. I can also use that energy to amplify my physical abilities, like give myself super speed. Wait, so that's how you managed to carry all of us to safety so quickly? Karen realized. Yep. Shin smiled. But what did you absorb if the bombs didn't physically touch Nor? Suigetsu asked. It isn't just limited to physical touch, Nor can absorb the vibrations of the explosions. He explained further. Wow, and what about Blanc? Karen asks, amazed at what Nor can do. Blanc can absorb energy like chakra and chakra-based attacks and adds it to my own. Shin explained. It's just like Samahata. Suigetsu noted. But unlike that sword, Blanc can magnify the chakra it absorbs before it transfers it to me, so even if it absorbs a tiny amount of chakra it will strengthen it by a lot. Shin told them. It also allows me to use the attacks it absorbs like Sasuke's Chidori, and I can use the chakra it absorbs to heal my injuries. He further explained, making all their eyes including Sasuke's widen in shock. There are other abilities these swords have, but I'll show them to you later since it appears we've found our target. Shin motioned ahead of them where Itachi Uchiha was waiting for them. They landed in front of him and Sasuke cautiously approached him. Sasuke. Itachi called his brother's name before Sasuke vanished and appeared in front of him with his sword plunged through his gut. That was fast. Shin said in a neutral tone, but then Itachi dispersed into a flock of crows and revealed that Itachi was behind it a couple feet away. You've improved. Itachi noted. You have no idea. Sasuke told him in a neutral tone as he prepared to fight. Let's not do this here. There's a special place not too far from here. I'll be waiting for you there. Itachi told him before dispersing into crows. One of them motioned for them to follow. Let's go. Sasuke ordered as they all followed the crow, Along the way they saw Naruto coming towards them. Sasuke. Naruto called his ex-teammate's name before Sasuke rushed towards him and punched him in the stomach, causing him to disappear in a puff of smoke. It's a shadow clone, we have to move quickly, Sasuke said urgently. In another location, the real Naruto received the dispelled clone's memories. I've located Sasuke, he informed everyone. Follow me. He began to lead everyone on the direction his clone used to be. He's making good use of the experience sharing ability of the shadow clones, but when did he figure that out? Kakashi asked himself in his head as he follows Naruto. Sasuke and his team arrived outside of what appeared to be ruins. What is this place? Karen asks. It was hideout that was once used by the Uchiha. Everyone turned to the direction they heard the voice and see an Akatsuki member and Itachi's partner Hoshigaki Kisame. Itachi is waiting for you up ahead, but from this point on Sasuke goes alone. Fine by me, Sasuke says as he walks ahead with Shin right behind him. I said Sasuke goes alone. Kisame repeated as he puts Samahata between Shin and Sasuke. I want to see the fight. Shin says smirking. Itachi doesn't want anyone to interfere. Kisame tells him as his hand grips Samahata tightly. I'm just going to watch. Shin says calmly. Not going to happen, Kisame says as he prepares to strike. Shin, stay here with everyone else, Sasuke ordered. Ah, but it'll get boring and these guys are no fun. Shin whined, motioning to the others. If you come with me then you'll miss out on the fun that's coming after us, Sasuke informed him, making him smile. Oh yeah, thanks for reminding me. Shin thanked him as Sasuke continued to head deeper into the hideout. Hey Sasuke. Sasuke turns his head to the side to look at Shin. Show Itachi that younger siblings are superior to older siblings, Shin tells him as he pumps his fist forward. Sasuke smirks and continues his path forward. His team watches his retreating back and Karen's eyes widen. I sense multiple chakra signals approaching this location. Which way are they coming from? Shin asks and Karen pointed the way. Let the fun begin, Shin says as he begins heading in the direction Karen pointed. Meanwhile Naruto and his friends have arrived where his clone was and with the help of Pakun, managed to locate Sasuke's scent and follow it. The scent leads this way, Pakun told everyone as they jumped from the tree branches. Hey! Everyone stopped when they saw Toby standing on a tree branch in front of them. Get out of our way, Naruto demanded as he charged a Rasengan and attacked Toby, but he just went right through him. He passed right through him, Kakashi thought in surprise. Yeah, no can do, can't have you interfering, Toby informed them. You can't take us all on, Kiba said. Bet I can. Everyone's eyes widen as they saw Shin land next to Toby. Long time no see, Shin waved at them. You, Naruto pointed at Shin. I see you have some unfamiliar faces with you this time, Shin noted as he looked at Hinata, Kiba and Shino. This should be fun. He turned to face Toby. You sit this one out, I'll take care of this, he told Toby before jumping down to the forest floor. Alright, how would you like to do this? Do you wanna go one-on-one or take me on together? Naruto was about to jump down when Sakura zoomed past him with her fist pulled back. Sakura-chan. I'll make an opening for you to attack, Sakura told him as she threw a punch at Shin. Hey! Shin smirked as he summoned Nor to block Sakura's punch. Don't you know that won't work? Shin told her as he pushed her back. Then how about this? Fang over Fang, Kiba announced as he spun around, turning himself into a mini twister that headed towards Shin. Interesting, Shin said as he blocked Kiba with Nor and canceling his attack. What the hell? Kiba said, surprised that his attack suddenly stopped. Physical attacks are useless against me, Shin told Kiba as he prepared to cut him in half, but Hinata managed to rescue him. Nice save, Shin complimented, but then he was beginning to be covered with bugs. Let's see your swords absorb that, Shino said as Shin was completely covered in insects, but suddenly the insects dispersed from Shin. Impossible. Don't need to use my swords, I love bugs. Shin said. He extended his hand forward and the swarm of insects flew at Shino. And they love me. He can control insects too. Shino was shocked as his own bugs were being turned against him, but they were blocked by Hinata, who used her rotation technique to scatter them. Shino-kun, stay back, Hinata told her teammate as she activated her Byakugan and charged at Shin. Again, Shin asked while raising an eyebrow as he lifted Nor to block Hinata's Juken. You still don't get. Shin cut himself off when he realized that he was being pushed back. No way. Shin was actually putting effort into pushing against Hinata. No way. Hinata's actually doing it. Sakura said in shock. Don't get your hopes up. Shin said as he lifted up Blanc to slash Hinata, but she jumped back. 8 trigrams vacuum palm, Hinata announced as she thrusted her right palm forward, creating a vacuum of air that heads towards Shin, who barely manages to dodge it. That was close, Shin thought to himself, but Hinata quickly closed in and struck him in the stomach with her gentle fist. Ah! He coughed up blood as he was sent flying back and slammed against a tree. That actually really hurt, he said while holding his stomach. Your body may be able to take outward blows, but even you are vulnerable to internal injuries. Hinata told him as she got into her gentle fist stance. This is nothing, Shin said as Blanc started glowing and he unleashed several energy waves at Hinata. Hinata, Sakura called out in worry, but Hinata's body is suddenly covered in chakra and she starts to spin around to create a dome of chakra that repels Shin's attacks back at him. That won't work. Shin blocked his attacks with Blanc and absorbed their chakra, and because of Blanc's ability to amplify the chakra, he received a huge boost which he used to heal his injuries. Ah, much better, he said as he saw Hinata close in on him again. Not this time. He quickly slashed Hinata using Nor. Hinata, Kiba shouted in worry. One down. Shin smirked, but it quickly faded as Hinata disappeared in a puff of smoke. A shadow clone. But where? Shin was cut off when he was struck in the back by a lion head made of chakra. You left yourself wide open, Hinata told him as she absorbed the chakra from Shin. No. Shin yelled in his head as he felt all the chakra he gained slip away. Hinata could feel a massive boost in her chakra as she took in Shin's chakra. This feels incredible, Hinata said to herself as her body was surrounded in an aura of chakra. Shin saw an opportunity as he embedded Nor into the ground, which caused it to start crumbling and collapse underneath them. Hinata leapt into the trees and leaving a trail of after images. I have to take her out first, her abilities are dangerous, Shin thought as Nor started glowing and he vanished. He's gone, Sakura said as she started looking around. Hinata's instincts detected a threat, and because of their link, Naruto sensed it too as Shin appeared behind Hinata and brought down Nor on top of her, cutting her in two. Hinata, Naruto screamed, horrified that his mate was sliced in two before his eyes. Not falling for it, Shin said he did swung Blanc back to cut Hinata across the chest as the one he cut in two disappeared in a puff of smoke. However, the second Hinata disappeared as well. I've never fought against an older sister before, but I'll still beat you, Shin said as he looked up to see Hinata sitting on a higher branch. What do you mean? Hinata asks. My personal goal is to defeat all older siblings I meet, and like I explained earlier, I've defeated older brothers mostly, so you're my first big sister, Shin explained. And I've got to say you're way better than they were. Thank you, Hinata said, a little confused at his goals. Enough talk, let's finish this, Shin said before vanishing. Hinata's senses were on full alert as she tried to detect Shin. Suddenly she brought her leg back while leaning forward to deflect Nor as Shin appeared behind her before he vanished again. How is he doing this? Sakura asks. No one on particular. He's moving at an incredible speed, Kakashi explained as lifted his headband to reveal his Sharingan. Hinata jumps up as the tree she was on is sliced down the middle. Shin then appears behind her with both his swords held apart. Gotcha, Shin said as he crossed his swords to form an X, but Hinata suddenly vanished in a purple flash. No way, he said in disbelief. He then heard the sound of electricity and looked behind him to see Hinata about to strike him with a lightning gentle fist. Damn, Shin cursed as Hinata struck his back, sending him down onto the ground. That was the Flying Thunder God technique. Hinata knows it too, Kakashi thought in shock. He looks at where Shin hit the ground and notices that his body is unmoving. Is he dead? Kakashi thought as he noticed an glowing outline of a fox head on Shin's back. Is that the seal she used to mark him? Kakashi thought as Hinata landed next to Shin and picked up his swords before placing them away from his body. Why can't I move? Shin asked no one in particular as he struggled to move his body. I added some lightning chakra into my Jukin to send a continuous electrical shock through your muscles, causing them to contract uncontrollably. Hinata explained as she reached into her ninja pouch and pulled out some rope. Very clever, Shin told her as Hinata came behind him and crouched down to tie his arms. But you made a mistake. What? Hinata asked cautiously. I don't need to hold my swords to use them. Shin told her as Blanc started to rise into the air before flying towards Hinata. She jumped away as Blanc stabbed Shin's leg. Ha! You missed. Kiba mocked. Did I? Shin asked as he started to move. Impossible. You should still be paralyzed for several more minutes. Hinata said, shocked. Blanc absorbed the lightning chakra. Shin said as he removed Blanc from his leg and stood up. Thanks for the lightning, by the way. What? Hinata blinked, not understanding. This, Shin said as Blanc started being covered in lightning. He can use lightning chakra nature. Hinata said, shocked as Shin lifted Blanc into the air and released a pulse wave of lightning around him. Hinata acted quickly and used her rotation to deflect the wave, but the others weren't so lucky. Ah! Naruto groaned as electricity coursed through his body. And now we're done to one. Shin said as he pointed Blanc towards Hinata. You'll pay for what you did to my friends. Hinata threatened as she got into her gentle fist stance. If you want to make me pay, then stop holding back. Shin told her, making Hinata's eyes widen. Don't look so surprised, you're much stronger than this, so if you don't want your friends to die. Shin disappeared and reappeared above Naruto with Nor raised up. Then fight me seriously, he said as he brought Nor down on Naruto only to be caught between Hinata's thumb and palm. Don't you ever. Hinata began as Shin tried to slash her with Blanc, but Hinata caught his wrist. Lay a hand on Naruto-kun. Hinata threatened as her eyes became slits but were barely visible. She lifted her feet off the ground using Shin's arms as leverage and kicked him on his chest, sending him back while she backflipped. Shin skid across the dirt before coming to a stop and disappearing. No you don't, Hinata said as she too disappeared. Where did they go? Naruto asks as he tried looking around but was limited since he couldn't move his head, but then booming sounds can be heard and trees were suddenly smashed. I see them, Sai said as he was lying on his back and briefly saw Hinata and Shin clash before disappearing again and reappearing as they clashed. How's Hinata-chan? Naruto asks worriedly. It's hard to tell, but they appear to be even. Sai told Naruto, but as soon as he said that they heard an odd noise. What was that? Naruto asked, having a bad feeling. No way, Sakura whispered as she was sitting on her knees facing forward and saw the source of the noise. What is it, Sakura-chan? Naruto asks her, but then he picks up the scent of blood. This blood smells like. Naruto trailed off as he feared the worst. Looks like I win, Shin said as he has Nor run through the right side of Hinata's stomach, blood running down from the tip of the blade. Hinata has her head down as her left hand was extended out as she managed to deflect Blanc by hitting Shin's wrist. You fought well, but in the end Shin cut himself off as he coughed up blood. He looked down to see Hinata's palm against his chest. Damn, he muttered as he staggered back, leaving Nor still embedded in Hinata. At least she won't be able to move since nor can even absorb the movement from your muscles making you immobile. Shin thought to himself as he watched Hinata, but then his eyes widened in shock as Hinata started to move and pull out Nor. That's impossible. How can you still move? I figured out how your swords work. Hinata said as her hair was covering her eyes. Since this one can absorb physical movement and the white one can absorb chakra, they can only do those and not the other. Hinata raised her head to look at Shin with a smile. So if I covered my hand in chakra, I should be able to stop this from absorbing my physical attacks. As for your white one, I simply use physical attacks, but I can still use chakra as long as I don't actually hit the blade like your wrist, for example. Hinata said, and Shin dropped Blanc as his wrist was in pain. Have you forgotten about what I said earlier? Shin said as Blanc began to rise but was pushed back down when Hinata stepped on it while still holding Nor. I haven't forgotten, and in case you're wondering, I gathered chakra around my wound just in case your sword can stop my muscles from moving. Hinata told him smugly. Hey, you got me. Shin admitted, smiling amused as he fell to his knees. So it appears that he can be stopped after all. Toby said to himself, but then Zetsu emerged from the tree branch he was on. The battle is over, Sasuke has won. Zetsu told Toby, but everyone else heard it. Excellent, just as I'd expected. Toby said. So Sasuke won his battle. That's good, I have to go congratulate him. Shin said as he slipped out a bomb from his sleeve and tossed it in front of himself. The bomb exploded in a bright flash, causing everyone to close their eyes. Shin then opened his left hand, causing Nor to disappear and reappear in his hand, and he used its ability to amplify his leg muscles to increase his speed and escape. When the light ended, Hinata looked to where Shin is and saw that he was gone. He got away, Hinata said disappointedly as she felt Blanc disappear beneath her foot. A couple miles away, Shin leaned his back against a tree as he was panting. Damn, she got me good, he said as he reached inside his hoodie and pulled out a clear corked bottle with several pills inside. He pulled the cork out and took out one pill before putting the cork back on and putting the bottle back in his hoodie and swallowing the pill. I have to get to Sasuke before. Shin trailed off as he collapsed on the ground. Back with the Sasuke retrieval team, the paralysis has worn off and the group is getting their bearings. Wow, that was incredible, Hinata. Kiba said with pride for his teammate. It was nothing. Hinata said bashful. It was definitely not nothing. Kiba told her. Yeah, Kiba's right, Hinata-chan. You were incredible. You sent him running for the hills. Naruto complimented his mate. Hinata's face turned red at Naruto's compliment. Despite having a very close relationship, being intimate with one another and having children with him, Hinata still felt embarrassed when he complimented her. Sakura watched Hinata's reaction to Naruto's compliment and noticed that she acted different with Naruto than everyone else. Could Hinata have feelings for Naruto? Sakura thought as she watched Naruto compliment Hinata more and making her face turn a deeper shade of red. No doubt about it, she mutters, but she feels a pang in her heart. What is this? Sakura thought as she places her hand over her heart. Alright, if everyone's alright now, we should get moving. Hinata, can you see ahead so we don't run into anything unexpected? Kakashi asked. Sure. Hinata agreed as she activated her Byakugan and her eyes widened in surprise at what she saw. I see black flames burning the forest. That must be Amaterasu, Kakashi thought. Alright, everyone move out, he ordered as they headed in the direction of the black flames and the sky begins to darken. Huh. Shin gasps as he lifts his head off the ground. I thought I was in a warm tunnel heading towards a bright light, he said aloud to no one as he got back up and dusted himself off. Well, I'm glad I took my Dedasign before I kicked the bucket. That Hyuga girl was really strong and she has huge too. Well, anyway, better go find Sasuke, he told himself before hurrying along. Meanwhile, Naruto's group is closing in on Sasuke's location, but we're blocked by a wall of black flames. Is there a way around this? Naruto asked impatiently. Hinata activated her Byakugan and scanned the area. There doesn't appear to be a way around. She told him sadly. We'll have to wait for a path to open. Kakashi told everyone. It'll be too late by then. Naruto says frustrated that Sasuke is so close but he can't reach him. I think I can do something about that, senpai. Yamato said as he clasped his palms together and the earth in front of them is being pushed up by a wood wall and parts the trees that are consumed by the black flame, making a clear path for them to travel. All right, Captain Yamato. Naruto cheered as they continued along the path that Captain Yamato provided them. Rain soon started to fall but they continued on undeterred. When they finally arrived at the ruins they saw signs of a battle but the combatants were nowhere to be found. Pakun smells around the area and looks at Kakashi. Sasuke was here, his scent is all over the area. Can you track it back to him? Kakashi asks, to which Pakun shook his head. The scent appears to have vanished, it's as if he disappeared. Pakun explains. Naruto looks around the area and then slams his fist against the ground. Damn it, Sasuke, why do you keep slipping away? Sakura looks at Naruto and she couldn't stand to see him like this. She smiles and opens her mouth to say something but someone beats her to it. Don't worry, Naruto-kun, we'll find him. Hinata assures him as she walks towards him and kneels next to him. We just need to keep looking. She tells him with a gentle smile as she places her right hand over his. Naruto looks at Hinata and smiles. Thanks, Hinata-chan. You're right, I can't give up. I'll just have to keep trying. You're welcome, Naruto-kun, and I'll be there with you so you won't have to do this alone. Hinata told him as she gently squeezed his hand. Sakura stared wide-eyed, the pang in her chest is back. Even as the rain hit her face, Sakura didn't register it. Her mind was going over Naruto and Hinata's conversation. It's just like what I told him back when Sasuke left the village. She thought, and then she recalled Hinata's battle with Shin. Hinata is a lot stronger and more skilled than I am. I'm just holding Naruto back. She thought as tears started to run down her face but were masked by the rain. After concluding that Sasuke couldn't be located, the Konoha group decided to find shelter before reporting back to the Leaf. Captain Yamato created another wooden house and everyone got settled in. Later that night, when everyone else was fast asleep, Sakura snuck out of the house to do some training. She practiced the taijutsu Tsunade taught her against some boulders, smashing them to pieces and maneuvering through the falling pieces. She then gathered the pieces and threw them into the air and attempted to catch one of them, but despite catching a few of them she couldn't catch the majority. She kept trying over and over again to catch them but she was nowhere near fast enough. She tried using shadow clones to help her but she could only create 3 clones and they still didn't help her catch them all. Eventually her chakra was depleted and her clones disappeared. She fell to her knees and was pelted by the falling rocks. She was panting hard as she started recalling how she was easily beaten by Shin. She remembered how he mocked her and called her weak. Sakura grit her teeth as she stood back up and began to practice her taijutsu by punching the air. You're pathetic. Shin's words echoed in her mind as she continued practicing. You're so weak. I'm surprised you're not dead yet. Sakura began jumping across the trees to work on her agility. I have to get stronger. I have to help Naruto bring back Sasuke-kun. She told herself as she pushed herself harder. You're too busy thinking about your precious Sasuke-kun to take anything seriously. Sakura suddenly stops and lands on the ground. You're pretty easy to read, which makes sense why everyone is walking circles around you. That's pathetic. Sakura then recalls how Ino is now beating her in training and how Hinata was able to actually beat Shin. Even though you were trained by one of the legendary Sannin, there's still nothing special about you. Sakura's body starts trembling as she falls on her hands and knees. The only thing you might actually be useful for is a baby factory, but who would want to breed with a useless girl like you? I feel bad for any future kids you have since they'll be stuck with your useless DNA. Shin's laugh echoed in her mind and she finally broke down. I can't do it. I can't become strong. And if I can't get stronger, what use am I to anyone, especially to Naruto? Sakura says out loud as she remembers how Naruto was hanging around Ino in his interaction with Hinata. You're better off with them than you are with me, she said, defeated as sob rocked her body. What makes you so sure? Sakura's head shoots up and looks back to see Naruto standing next to a tree. Naruto. Sakura was surprised to see him, but then she realized the state she was in and quickly got up. What are you doing here? She asked as she started wiping her tears. I wanted to do some training, I guess you had the same idea. Naruto said sheepishly as he tried to lighten the mood. If you want, you can have this spot, I'll look for another one. Sakura told him while still having her back to him and started to leave. Wait, Sakura-chan. Naruto called out to her and made her stop. What? Sakura replied a little coldly. Do you want to train with me? Naruto asks. I don't think I would be much of a training partner. Sakura tells him without looking back. That's ridiculous, you're the perfect training partner. Naruto tells her honestly. Sakura smiles slightly at his compliment, but she quickly frowns. Fine, if you're so insistent, then I'll train with you. Sakura agreed as she turned around to face Naruto. So what do you want to work on? How about we work on improving my dodging, and since Ba-chan taught you how to avoid attacks very well, then you're the perfect person to help me. Naruto says, smiling. Alright, but I'm going to hold back a little bit so I don't accidentally hurt you. Sakura telephones him as she gets into her taijutsu stance. Don't hold back, give me everything you've got. Naruto tells her. Are you crazy? What if you can't dodge my hits in time and you get seriously hurt? Sakura asks, shocked. Naruto has been on the receiving end of her punches before, so he should know what he's getting himself into. I'm dead serious, Sakura-chan. Our enemy isn't going to pull any punches, so I don't want you to either. Naruto told her. Sakura saw the serious look on Naruto's face and sighed. Fine, but don't blame me if I seriously hurt you. Don't worry, even I get seriously hurt, I have you here to fix me up. Naruto assures her, smiling confidently. Baka, Sakura said as she charged forward, gathering chakra into her right fist. She throws a right hook, but Naruto leans his head to the left, making Sakura miss. The air pressure of her fist blasted several trees behind her. Wow, Sakura-chan, that was amazing. Naruto tells her, sounding impressed. That was nothing special. Sakura telephones him as she continues her attack. She's surprised that Naruto managed to dodge that. Nothing special. Sakura-chan, you can do things I probably can never do. Naruto tells her as he dodges her punches. Like what? Sakura asks as she switches from punches to kicks. Well, for one, you're a lot smarter than I am. Naruto starts off as he dodges one of Sakura's kicks that easily shatters a tree behind him. Book smarts can only get you so far. Sakura tells him as she starts getting a little frustrated that Naruto is dodging her attacks. But you need book smarts to help you understand how to do certain things and improve your skills, which brings me to my second point. You're an amazing medical ninja. I would bet you're better than Ba-chan now. Naruto tells her. No, I'm nowhere near Lady Tsunade's level. Sakura said in frustration as she suddenly slams her palm together in front of her, creating a shockwave that knocks Naruto back and over some bushes. Realizing what she did, Sakura quickly rushes to his aid. Naruto, are you okay? She asks worriedly as she reaches the bushes and sees him lying on a pile of rocks. I'm okay. These rocks broke my fall, ow. Naruto groans in pain as he tries to move himself into a comfortable position. Here, let me help you. Sakura extends her right hand out, to which Naruto takes, and she hauls him to his feet. Are you okay? Other than my back pain, I'm alright. Naruto told her. Turn around and let me take a look. Sakura tells him, to which he complies. Take off your jacket. She orders and Naruto obeys. She gathers chakra to her hands and places her palms on his back. How does that feel? A little better, thanks, Sakura-chan. Naruto tells her gratefully as his back pain begins to subside. Can you go a little lower? Sure. Sakura trails her hands down his back, she couldn't help but feel his muscles. His muscles feel hot. Sakura thought as she started feeling hot. Does it hurt anywhere else? My chest hurts a little, he said with a hint of mischief as he turned around. Sakura's face turned completely red as she saw Naruto's muscular chest. She slowly places her hands on his chest and slowly started to caress it. His chest is so hard and strong. She thought as she trailed her hands down to his abs. The feeling of his abs against her hands causes Sakura to shiver a bit. Her nose picks up a very pleasant smell that causes her breathing to become erratic. I never knew Naruto smelled this good before, she thought to herself as she begins to lean from side to side. Naruto grabs Sakura's shoulders to help steady her. Are you okay, Sakura-chan?